It's a Friday morning in the middle of summer in Jacksonville, Florida. A low concrete factory sits off the highway, surrounded by parking lots and palm trees. Inside that building, 127 people are clocking in for the last time. Some of them have worked here their whole lives and their parents worked here before them. The factory has been making shampoo and hair gel and cosmetics in this exact spot for over 60 years. By the end of the summer, every one of them will be unemployed. The lights will be off. The machines will be cold. The reason this factory is closing has nothing to do with the workers, the products they make, or what happened in the last year. It's because of a deal that happened 40 years ago, before most of these workers were even born. A deal made by a man none of them have ever met, in a courtroom most of them have never heard of. This is the story of how a single argument between two billionaires in 1985 reached forward through time, like a slow-motion wrecking ball, and finally landed on a factory floor in Florida. By the end of this video, you are going to understand a rule of American business that affects every single thing you own, and you've probably never heard its name. Let's go back to the beginning. America during the Great Depression, where people are broke and banks are failing. In a tiny apartment in Brooklyn, two brothers and their friend pool their savings to start a company. Their company is called Revlon. Their first product is nail polish. Now, here is the wild part. It works. Within a few decades, Revlon is the most famous beauty brand on the planet. Their lipstick is on Marilyn Monroe. Their nail polish is in every drugstore from New York to California. They sell their products in 150 countries. 40 years ago, Revlon was as American as Coca-Cola, as recognizable as Disney and beloved as Levi's. The company is run by a smooth, sophisticated French executive. He flies on private jets. He runs his board meetings in 3 different languages. He believes Revlon will be his forever. He's about to find out he's wrong, because across town, a man named Ron Perelman is staring at Revlon and he wants it. Who is Ron Perelman? Picture a guy in his early 40s, Cuban cigar in one hand, always in a custom suit. Runs his deals out of a fancy townhouse in New York City. His father taught him one rule when he was a kid. Find a company that's badly run, buy it cheap with borrowed money, sell off the parts you don't want, and keep the part that prints cash. Now here is what makes Perelman's story so wild. He doesn't actually have the money to buy Revlon, not even close. So how does a guy with no money buy a company that sells lipstick in 150 countries? He uses 3 tricks. Trick 1. He buys a dying supermarket chain, Pantry Pride, for cheap. Then he shuts it down completely and turns it into an empty company, like an empty box with a name on it. Trick 2. He calls his friend on Wall Street, a bond trader named Michael Milken, the junk bond king. Milken raises a massive pile of money from investors who want to bet on Perelman. Trick 3. Perelman pours all that borrowed money into the empty box, and then he points the box, like a financial cannon, straight at Revlon. Then he walks into the French CEO's office and offers to buy the company. The French CEO laughs in his face and says, "Revlon is not for sale." Perelman doesn't beg or negotiate. He goes around the CEO entirely and offers the money directly to the people who actually own Revlon, the shareholders. He basically tells them, "Your boss won't sell. I will pay you directly. Take the cash." The Revlon board panics and they start throwing every defense they can think of at Perelman. They invent legal traps. They even start loading their own company up with extra debt, making Revlon less attractive just to keep Perelman from buying it, just to keep one guy out. The board of directors is sabotaging their own company, but Perelman keeps raising his offer, so the board does something desperate. They find a friendlier buyer, another investment firm called Fossman Little, and they secretly cut a deal with that firm. They give the friendly buyer special protections, secret payments, and a clause that says the board is legally forbidden from even talking to Perelman. Now the door is locked, or so they thought, because Perelman walks straight into a courtroom and he argues something that sounds boring but turns out to be revolutionary. He says the board is supposed to work for the shareholders and not for itself. By locking out the highest bidder, the board has betrayed the very people they work for. The court agrees, and there goes every secret protection voided. The friendly buyer kicked out. Revlon falls to Perelman. The French CEO is fired. But what happens next is the part nobody expects. That court case became one of the most important rulings in American business history. It's called the Revlon Doctrine. And here is what it says in plain English. When your company is being sold, your only job as the board is to get the highest possible price for the people who own the stock. Period. You don't get to favor your friends. You don't get to protect your own job. You don't get to play favorites. You run a real auction and you take the highest bid. Now, why does this matter to you? Because if you own a single share of stock in any company in America, through your retirement accounts, through a Roth IRA, through your grandparents' inheritance, this rule is working in your favor right now, every single day. Every time you've heard about a giant takeover in the news, Twitter, Activision, Time Warner, every big media merger, the deal was negotiated under the Revlon Doctrine. One angry cosmetics billionaire and one court ruling rewrote the rules of American capitalism forever. But here is the part the law school textbooks skip. Perelman didn't save Revlon. He took it apart, and within a couple of years of buying the company, he started selling off pieces of it. The vision care division sold. The medical lab division spun off into a separate company. 2 more divisions sold to other companies. He used that money to pay back the people he had borrowed from, and he kept the part that made cosmetics. This is called the bust-up playbook. You buy a company with borrowed money, sell it for parts like a car at a junkyard. You pay off your debts, but you keep the engine, and it worked beautifully. A few years after the takeover, a magazine named Perelman the richest man in America, richer than the founder of Walmart, Sam Walton. The bet had paid off, but here is what he didn't see coming. For decades after the takeover, Revlon kept carrying massive piles of borrowed money. The world changed, department stores died, new beauty brands took over the internet, Fenty, MAC. All those names you see on TikTok. Revlon kept getting weaker and the debt kept getting heavier. And then about 10 years ago, Perelman made one last swing. He borrowed even more money to buy another beauty brand called Elizabeth Arden, for $1 billion financed mainly with loans. A few years ago, Revlon couldn't pay its debts anymore. The company filed for bankruptcy and Perelman lost everything. 40 years of fighting, and the lenders he had borrowed from took the keys. And then those lenders, a group of hedge funds in New York, looked at the books and they decided the Jacksonville factory had to close. So in 2025, 127 workers got their layoff notices. 60 years of making shampoo and lipstick on that factory floor over. Here is what Wall Street will tell you the Revlon story is about: a famous court case, a landmark ruling, an efficient capitalist economy, which is all true, but that's not the whole story. Because the Revlon Doctrine protects shareholders, the investors who own stock. It does not protect workers or the factories, nor the families on Overmire Drive in Jacksonville who spent their lives making the products in your bathroom cabinet. When a board is legally required to chase the highest price, they are not allowed to ask the question that actually matters. The question of what happens to the people 40 years from now. The doctrine forbids that question. So here is the real lesson. American business law measures one thing, the price of a stock at the moment of sale. It does not measure the cost a worker pays 4 decades down the line. Ron Perelman walked away from Revlon with nothing. The 127 workers in Jacksonville walked away with nothing. The shareholders who sold their stock at the top walked away rich. One of those 3 groups was protected by the law. 2 were not, and that's the deal. If this is the kind of story you want more of, the real human cost behind the deals that built modern Wall Street, hit subscribe. Every week, we tear apart a deal you thought you understood and show you the people who actually paid the price. See you in the next one.